Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, I've been off for a few weeks because I've been sick and then we took the holidays. But this episode is for you. If you're one of those people that think the Terminators are coming to kill us through AI, we're going to dispel all those myths today with my brother Jonathan. He's an amazing dude. He's not only a coach, podcast host, he also has one of the most amazing Facebook groups ever, but he's also an amazing husband, father, and brother in Christ. So guys, if you want to know everything about AI, this is the episode for you. Jonathan, my brother, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, and I am so excited. And I got to tell you, that bumper music that you have on your intro, dude, that is a rocks. I love that.
I'm blessed. My friend William Matry actually put it together for me, so thank you, brother. So first question I'm going to ask you right out the gate: what is your definition of resiliency? Because we're both the same age, and we've seen a lot of stuff. We had to pivot a bunch of times. So, what is your definition of resiliency?
It's not over till it's over. And as you and I were talking a little bit up front, I really believe resiliency is about the mindset of understanding that life isn't what happens. It's not about your circumstance. It's about what you make of that circumstance. I've been in some rotten spots in my life, mainly due to my own screw ups. But I've learned that when I choose how I'm going to react to that situation, it allows me to be resilient, and it allows me to truly find not only joy, but peace in those situations and to work through those, even though some of them are an absolute muddy mess, generally, again, created by me. I think it's all about choosing to succeed and choosing to excel.
And I love it. But like I said, all these things, like I said, you're a husband, you're a father, coach, podcast host, Facebook group. You're a busy man, but you're also an amazing husband to your bride, and also
I do my best.
You're an amazing father to your children. So, I mean, I wasn't expecting to ask this question, but how do you keep it all together? Because I hear some people say, I don't have time. I don't have any time. And we're all given the same 1,440 minutes a day. So how do you do everything that you do and still keep it all together?
Well, let me say, I'm not sure I keep it all together. My team would probably tell you that it's a great facade that I keep it all together. A couple things. One, I surround myself by amazing people that make up for the areas that I'm deficient in, and there's plenty of those. So that's number one. And the other part, as you know, I'm a nut for AI. As an ADD entrepreneur, I have leveraged AI to help me get more done in every single day, to help me serve others better, and to be able to bring more value. And AI is just an amazing tool to allow me to do that, and generally allow me to do that before my ADD brain goes squirrel and something else gets my attention.
Okay, so let's talk about it because we brought it up already. So we're going to go there. For me, I use AI as a tool. Yep. I don't use it as a crutch. You know, I use it because if I actually had this conversation with one of my cousins. He's a lawyer. And I said, well, when I go to your office, I don't get to talk to you right away. I got to talk to your assistant. When I go to my doctor's, I got to talk to the assistant. So I use AI as an assistant, but not to do my job. So talk about how important that is to use it as a tool.
I think that's, yeah, I think, it's interesting. That's, I think, one of the biggest misnomers that people have about AI is we think back to those old Office Max or Office Depot commercials where they have the easy button, and we think that's what AI is. It's going to be the easy button. It's really not. It's an easier button. And what I mean by that, Richard, is that AI amplifies our skill and experience, but it doesn't replace us. You and I, one of the benefits we have being in our 50s is the fact that we actually have experience and we have skills to amplify. Probably for the first time in history, a technology has come along that us old guys can take advantage of more than our sons can take advantage of. Not that our sons can't, but we have the skill and experience to amplify. AI is that tool. Now, does it need to be used responsibly? Absolutely. But it's an amazing tool that can be used to help you provide more value, to save time, and just to make life better in so many, many ways.
Okay, so let's break it down Barney style.
Got it.
Because I'm an old school guy. I'm a ninth grade dropout, so I don't have a lot of schooling behind me. So what is artificial intelligence? Break it down.
Well, first, I think it's a mislabel. We don't have artificial intelligence at this point. It's not sentient. It can't figure things out. I can't go to ChatGPT and say, I need to buy some new headphones so that I can hear Richard on the podcast. So go find me the best set that's under $200 and get it delivered. AI can't do that. It's not capable of that. Will it get there? Maybe at some point in time, but we're not anywhere near that. AI today is essentially a predictive technology. In other words, it's been trained on essentially every book and every library around the world. And therefore, it has vast amounts of information that it can recall. And because it's a computer, it can recall stuff really quickly. But it's exactly what it's doing. It's predicting what we're going to do. So when I go in and say, you know what, Richard sent me this email and I need to respond and say the following, it's looking at it and analyzing data. And based upon that, it's predicting what I would probably want to say based upon the inputs. And it mimics artificial intelligence because we see it, respond to an email, go, how did it know all that? That's amazing. Well, it's been trained. It's got all of this information. But it's not the artificial intelligence that we all watched in Terminator when we were in high school and college. Yeah, that's not what we have. This is totally different. It is a predictive technology that is amazing, but it is not really artificial intelligence as most of us would define it.
Okay, now, but like when somebody asked me about, why I'm a Chat GPT guy. That's my thing because it works well for me. There's so
Yep.
many other things out there. But somebody will ask me, well, can anybody put anything into Chat GPT? And I'm like, yeah. But when I put something into Chat GPT, sometimes it's up to a paragraph long. So I know it's going to give me the answers that I want, and it's going to get into the detail and the minutia instead of just saying, hey, Chat GPT, write me an article on fitness. Well,
Yes.
if I put, write me an article on fitness, nutrition, supplements, on especially for diabetes and cholesterol, it'll give me more information than if the average guy that says write me an article on fitness, right?
Well, and that's probably one of the biggest problems that people run into is we assume that AI can read our mind. It can't any more than I can read my wife's mind. And if for all the married guys out there, we know that's impossible. It just doesn't work
Yeah,
that way.
good luck with that. Good luck with that.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. But Richard, it's no different if you and I were working on a project together. Let's just say that we were sitting in the same office, we're working on a project together, and let's just hypothetically say, you're an expert at writing press releases, and I, as a business owner, need a press release. If I walk up to you and say, hey, Richard, I need a press release, and I turn around and I walk away, and you go, okay, Jonathan, couple questions. I go, no, you got it, Richard, figure it out. You're going to be able to write a press release, but it's probably not going to be what I wanted because I didn't give you any information. All you know is, okay, Jonathan's an AI guy. He's got a big, long white beard. He's got a couple kids, a couple grandkids. I'll do my best to write something. But when you realize what I really wanted you to do is I wanted you to write a press release about my next 91-day event, and I wanted you to explain why it's called Thrive and all these other things, you wouldn't be able to do that because I didn't give you any of that information. And what happens when we use AI is we often go in and do just that. It's like me walking up to you and go, Richard, I want a press release, and turning around and walking away while you're screaming behind me going, but I need information. And I just walk away. And of course, as a result of that, we would never do that in real life because, of course, we know we wouldn't get good results. But we do that with AI all the time. And then we get frustrated going, well, geez, it didn't do what I wanted. That sucks. Well, yeah, because we didn't give it any information.
And I agree with that. And like I said, that's why I love your group. I sit and I watch and I learn every single day. And being 50, going to be 56 at the end of the month, sometimes it's harder, like I think you said, to learn, but I think it's also because all the experience that we have, we can
Right.
work on the right prompts because we know what to ask it. But also when I write something, um, I'll ask it, I'll say, write it in my voice,
Right.
write it in my style, because I've been, like I said, I've been with ChatGPT since it was beta, and now I've been in so long, it's starting to learn my words, how I speak, what I talk about. But I think a lot of people, that I can tell if somebody writes something, usually from AI, is because they're using words that person would not normally use. Like if you see me
Yes.
using a 3-4 syllable word, that's not me. You know what I mean? And I think, like, I had Steve Sims on my show, and he said when he had his first book, it was ghostwritten, and his wife read it and said, "You can't put that out. That's not you.
Yeah,
People know that's not you."
exactly.
So
Yep.
talk about that. How important that is.
I'm glad you asked that, Richard. I think it's one of the things that's so often overlooked. It's also one of the very common complaints we hear is, that that reads like AI, that sounds like AI. Well, AI is designed, and again, it's been trained on every book and every library. So it's been trained on how to do so many things. But its default style is probably going to be a bit more formal and use a bit larger words than most of us do in our day-to-day conversation. And so what we want to do, if we're going to use it, and I call it AI assistance, if we're going to have it assist us in writing that email and writing a social media post, maybe even writing a white paper, I want it to train to sound like me. And that means that I need to tell it who I am because, guess what, Richard? We're both turning 56 within the next 60 days. And so we're very similar in that respect. We both have a passion for caps. I can see you've got your baseball cap on. I wear one almost all the time, mainly because there's not a whole lot underneath it. And so it makes it more comfortable. It gets the shine off my head. But the whole point is we have some things in common, yet ChatGPT doesn't know any of those things about us. And if we went and wrote articles, those articles would probably both sound different. If we wrote an email, they would probably both sound different. So we need to train ChatGPT or Claude or whatever model we're using. We need to train AI to sound like us. And the best way to do that, Richard, is just to let it know what our personality is. So, it can be as simple as I recommend, you've probably heard me say, go out to a site called 16personalities.com. It's free. Spend 10 minutes, take their personality test. It's going to give you a 4-letter code for a Myers-Briggs personality type. If you're a certified Myers-Briggs coach, I apologize. I know it may not be perfect, but it's going to be good enough for AI. And I can go out and it'll tell me that Jonathan's an ENTJ. Don't worry about what that means. Doesn't matter. What the key is when I tell ChatGPT, write as an ENTJ. And by the way, that's all I need to do after I've given it my instructions. And maybe I want to write this email to Richard. I want to thank him for having me on the podcast. I want to let him know what an awesome experience it was. Write as an ENTJ. It now has ChatGPT, that is, now has reams of information on what it means personality-wise to be an ENTJ. It knows lots about how I think, how my brain works, whether I like long content, short content. Am I direct and to the point? Do I beat around the bush? Am I super analytical? Am I not? It knows tons of stuff about me based on those 4 letters. And by the way, there's 16 different codes you can have, and most of those have 2 variations. There's about 32 different variations that you can give it. And most of us as humans fall into 1 or 2 of those. And when we tell ChatGPT what our personality is, all of a sudden, that ghost written book that you referred to now sounds a lot more like me because that ghostwriter, in this case AI, has fully understood who I am, or at least gotten, maybe not fully, but it's gotten 80 to 90% of the way there, literally with those 4 letters.
And I think it's sometimes, like, if I use it a lot, like tomorrow I'm actually writing a article on how to raise money and capital for your business. I
Yep.
use it as a learning tool instead of going to Google, where I gotta sift through the first 10 or 15 to see which one's sponsored. I use it to learn. Okay, I'm teaching on this tomorrow because I learned that the best way to teach something, to learn something, is to teach it. So
Absolutely,
for me,
100%.
I write an article for LinkedIn every Thursday. It's called the Thursday Thunder. And so for a whole week, I'm studying on that one subject so I can write an article with the help of ChatGPT, because I am a ninth grade dropout. I'm not great with, perfect sentence structure and stuff like that. So, but I believe that you can use it to not only write stuff, but you can actually use it to learn, to to get better in business, in life. You can use teaching.
Absolutely.
So talk
Yeah,
about that
what's
teaching tool.
Yeah, it's again, because it's been trained on every book and every library, it knows, quote unquote, and I should say that in air quotes, it knows a lot of information, and it can help us find that information and get that information back to our audience or back to us, or help us learn from that. So it's a great tool from that perspective, and it does do some amazing things. One of the things I often tell my team is, if you don't have an answer to something, you don't know how to do something, ask ChatGPT. But then the other part is, we just need to take a moment and we need to review what it's saying, because remember, it's been trained on every book in every library. And if you go to the library today, and let's say I want to look up about how to write a great resume, I can probably find 30 different books in the library about how to do that. And between those 30 books, there's going to be some disagreement on what's the best thing to do. And ChatGPT may occasionally get conflicted because it's been trained on all 30 books, and therefore it may not always give you the perfect information. That's why we're still needed. We need to validate what's there. But yeah, when it comes to learning concepts, oh my gosh, I do that almost daily. I need to learn what the best practice is for this. I need to teach somebody the following, or I just need to understand, somebody used a word I didn't know. What's that mean? Yesterday, I was talking to my business coach, and they kept using this acronym, and I'm like, I should know what that is. I don't really feel like admitting to my business coach that I don't have a clue what he's talking about. So I went into ChatGPT and I said, what's this acronym stand for? And it told me. And I'm like, oh, now all of a sudden, light bulb went on. I now knew what he was talking about. Everything was great. And again, I could have asked, but it was great. I just went into ChatGPT and I'm like, what's this acronym mean? Oh, now I know, and I can move forward with that. So whether it's an acronym or whether you want to learn something new, I just used it the other day. Stupid thing, but we wanted beef stew. It's a little cold where we're at. We're like, oh, some nice beef stew with some potatoes and carrots and all that. That'd be really good, hearty, nice, warm meal. Sounds great on a cold day. It's been a long time since I made beef stew. So I went and I asked, what's a great recipe for beef stew? Here's what I've got. I've got beef, I've got potatoes, I've got carrots, I've got onion. What else do I need to put in, and how can I do it? And while I could have probably figured it out, in 30 seconds, I had an incredible recipe. It asked me, are you going to do it on your crock pot? Are you going to do it on the stove? No, I'm going to do it in my crock pot. Gave me the instructions. And again, within about 30 seconds, I had everything I needed to make a great meal, versus what would have been probably 10 or 15 minutes at a minimum if I'd searched Google to try to find a recipe site, to visit a bunch of different websites, all of that. It would have been a nightmare.
Excuse me, still
No, you're
struggling
good.
with this. But now, I think, was it last week when ChatGPT went down? People were freaking out.
Yes, they
and I was
were.
like, I had a question, and I'm like, okay, all right, Gemini, all right, Meta AI, I need help with this. So I have a couple of different sites that I use. Like, I personally, now that ChatGPT and Canva are working together, that's pretty tight. But I knew that there are some pictures that Meta AI can draw, and they look lifelike.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And you don't have 7 fingers. But,
Yeah.
so I think, each AI has something a little bit different. So talk a little bit about the differences between, Meta AI, Gemini, which I don't think Gemini has photos or anything yet. So talk about the differences between some of the platforms.
So there are a lot of differences, as you mentioned, between the platforms and what they can do. For the most part, there's 3 major, well, I'll say 4 major, what we call large language models. Those are the things that we type text into and give us text back. There's ChatGPT, which is by far the most popular. There's one by a company called Anthropic, which is called Claude, which is very good. Google has their own called Gemini. And even Meta, or Facebook or Instagram, if you're more familiar with that, they have one, and it's called Llama, of all things. All of those do a great job overall of allowing you to put in a text response and get a text response back. Some of them even have additional capabilities like ChatGPT and Meta. ChatGPT and Google Gemini. They can search web pages, so you can give them a URL and they can go pull information from that. Claude doesn't have that ability. Meta and ChatGPT, they can create images as well. So if you want to create images, you can do that. But there's also specialty tools that are out there. So if you're really into imagery, I happen to be an avid amateur photographer, and I love that creativity. So there are other tools that can be used, and I happen to use one called MidJourney and another one called Flux, Flux, to create imagery. And again, those are different in that I can't put in a prompt to help me write an email into MidJourney because it's always going to create an image. The same is true with Flux. It always creates images. That's what they do. And on the other hand, then there's search engine tools like Perplexity and GPT Search that allow us to actually almost replace Google and what Google has done for years and now have an AI-based search. And some people will go, what's the benefit of an AI search? Well, it's great for people like me that don't want to go visit a bunch of websites. I talked about that beef stew recipe. If I search beef stew in Google, it's going to give me a list of 10 websites that I can go look at. That's great, but I need to go look at all 10 websites. If I do that in either GPT search, which is part of ChatGPT, or I do that in a tool called Perplexity, which is a great AI tool, it's not only going to give me those 10 sites, but it's also going to analyze them and it's going to give me an answer. So instead of me having to go visit all 10 websites, now it's going to give me the links if I want to, but it's going to give me my answer. And that means it saves me time and energy. And that's awesome. I love it when that happens.
And like when I use ChatGPT, if I'm looking for something, I'll prompt it to search all the internet. I'll prompt it to search this and search that instead of just saying, putting the question in. I'll say, ChatGPT, please. And I'm a guy. I don't know why I say please. I say thank you.
I do too.
And I'll say search the internet, and you'll see it'll take a little bit longer because it's actually searching more than just one thing. So how important it is for something that a couple words like that to get different results than your average Joe.
Right. Yeah. And again, that's one of the really cool things is while it's been trained on a lot of stuff, and we often talk about like knowledge cutoff. What's the knowledge cutoff date? What's the last time? That's relevant, but it's becoming less relevant because now these tools can search the internet. And so I can literally go and find out what the football scores were for the other day and have it pull that information up. Something geopolitical happens yesterday. I want to learn about it. I can literally do that through a lot, not all, but a lot of those tools right away. And I can do that currently if I want to.
Okay, now I have a question that was asked in our group, and it had like 1,000 different responses, but I wanted to get it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
Like when I like I said, I've been with ChatGPT from day one. I have the paid version. I'm not going anywhere. I'm the kind of guy, I'm with something. I like to stick with something. And it's already taken all these months to learn already. So I'm not going to switch onto something else. I'll use something else if I have to. But somebody asked in our group, I call it our group.
Yeah, no, it's all right. It is our group. It is something, it takes all of us. If it's just one of us, it's not a good group.
So why should somebody pay for ChatGPT? And I'm talking to Craig, my perfect avatar, because military personnel, we're known to be cheap as hell. So why would somebody not have the paid version and just use the free version?
Well, it's an excellent question, and I think it depends on what your needs are. All of them, I say most of the AI engines that are out there offer free access, but it's on a limited basis. I compare it to the local drug dealer. The first time you want to try that drug that he's selling, it's free. Why? Because he wants to get you hooked on it. And then the second time you want it, it's going to cost you money. And that's kind of the way the AI models work. And I don't blame them. They've got costs, but they typically give you some free access. And for the most part, for a lot of people, that free access is sufficient. And if it is, no need to upgrade. But if you're like many of us, what you're going to find as soon as you start getting into it, you're going to go, man, I want more of this. This is really good. It's like walking around Costco or Sam's Club on a Saturday, and you could eat lunch there by stopping at all the different food stations and getting one bite at a time. Why do they do that? They want you to buy the whole box of the product. And that's what they're doing with AI as well. They're giving you a sample, they're letting you try it. And if you're okay with going to Sam's Club or Costco and eating lunch at one bite at a time as you walk around the store, you can do that. That's okay. But many people end up choosing to buy the box behind it, and that's what they want to do with AI. And what you'll find is that you'll get significantly more use as far as usage, ability to use it, and you'll often get some enhanced features that are available as well when you pay for it. At the end of the day, because of the fact that it's, again, literally $20 to buy the plus plan of ChatGPT, I find it to be really worthwhile. I mean, I can go out to lunch nowadays. I mean, goodness, I'm going to date myself, but I remember when I started working, the goal was to eat lunch for $5. Now, if I can eat lunch with a tip for under 20, I'm doing good. So it's basically, I don't go out to lunch one time a month and I get my ChatGPT. To me, that's a great value. Everybody else, you've got to decide on where it's at. But I think it's a very fair price and very affordable. And I can't imagine why, if you were using it as a tool, why we wouldn't do it. I mean, many of us pay more than that for Netflix, and we certainly have paid a lot more than that for cable. And I find AI to be far more entertaining.
Yeah, and now, like, I know, like, for me, in my niche, podcasting, Opus Clip and ChatGPT have changed the game to where
Absolutely.
what used to take me used to take me about 10 hours to listen to an episode, record, put it out, find hashtags, find YouTube tags, find
Oh, yeah.
headlines, create videos. It used to take me 10 to 20 hours to put out a video. Now I think my time has probably been cut in half. Now,
Yeah.
and you're a podcast host, so I'm going to ask you, and because a lot of people that listen to my show are podcast hosts, what have you found that AI has helped you with your pod and with your social media?
Two things in particular with the podcast that it's helped me out. One is figuring out what type of answers or questions to ask my guests. Much like you, I bring guests on and I ask them questions. And I used to have to spend quite a bit of time doing research. Now I can literally go and say, all right, I'm interviewing Richard. Here's his LinkedIn profile. It already knows about my show because I've trained it. It already knows about my audience because I've trained it. So give me 15 questions that I can ask Richard that are going to help create an interesting podcast episode. And boom, 20 seconds later, I've got those questions and I can pick and choose the ones that I want. So that's the first thing. It's saved me a ton of time on research. The other is in the post-production. We're talking about a lot of different things here. My guess is that some of these, based on you mentioning Opus, one of my favorite tools, we're going to be able to clip some of these, and you're going to have anywhere from 10 to 60-second versions that we put up on social media and all that type of stuff. That used to take a lot of time. You're manually walking through your entire video. You're listening to it. You're cutting, you're trimming. Oh my gosh, I hated that. It was just a nightmare. Now we've got tools like Descript and Opus that literally we can give that video episode to, and it will listen to it. It'll use AI to analyze it, and it will create clips for us that we can use. Now, it may create 12 clips out of this, and I may only want to use 9 of them, but that's okay. It took me no time in order to do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because like I know, like I'm putting out an episode this weekend. I put in Opus. I just downloaded from YouTube, and it popped out 10 60-second videos with captions.
Yes.
And with a ranking score of what kind of chance you have for it to go viral.
And it's just
And
amazing when you think about that it has those capabilities. It blows my mind. But again, talking about saving time, it's an incredible way to save time.
yeah, and I think it saves money because there's a lot of people that were paying for a video editor.
Oh
They were
yeah.
paying this and paying that. Like I think I paid for the year for Opus. It was
Yeah.
like $10 a month for the year, whatever it was.
Yeah.
But I realized
Very,
I'm
very
saving more
affordable.
money by not hiring my virtual assistants from the Philippines. I'm saving a lot of money, but I'm also saving a lot of time, right?
Well, and that's it. It saves us time and energy, and time is money. But like you said, if you're going to hire some staff, my team, they have access to the same AI tools I use. Why? Because now maybe instead of needing three people, I can have one person, and they can get the job of three people done. Or one of the things that I love it for is my assistant will often help me respond to emails, as an example. And she's got a different personality than I do. So she's not always going to write things as I would. Well, I created a custom GPT that was trained on my tone and my style and my personality, kind of like we talked earlier. And she now has access to that. So when she's replying to emails, even though she says it's, hey, this is Jonathan's assistant replying, she can write it in a tone and style that matches me. And that means I don't have to review every single email anymore to make sure it sounds like me. It automatically sounds like me. And I trust her to review it and make sure it wasn't poor quality before it goes out. Little things like that not only save her time, but it also saves me time. And, I've always said, for at least the last year, I've said, if you can't save an hour a day with AI, then you're not trying to save time, because I think virtually anyone, especially anybody that's working, you can use AI to save you 60 minutes a day. And within a couple days, you can be there. Well, now imagine that if you've got an extra 5 hours every week, either that's time to get things done that you didn't have, because most of us have more to-do list than we do time, or if not, that's okay. Now we've actually got time we can actually put into a project to do something better, because there's always things that needed more of my attention and I just didn't have the time to get to it. So I did an okay job versus an amazing job. And now I can do an amazing job because I have more time in order to make that happen.
So okay, so let me ask you a question because I know I'm not that copy and paste guy. I go
Hmm.
in there. I want to make sure that the information is correct. First of all,
Yes,
because sometimes
absolutely.
you might get something that might be outdated. So you always want. And then what I do is I kind of, because I'm a low tech redneck, I actually
I
just
love it.
I copy and paste it into my messages, and then I edit it and then push it out because I want to add
Yeah.
stuff. I want to add my own words. I want to add my own twists. So it's not just me. And I seen somebody complaining about it on Reddit. Somebody copy and pasted it and just put it as a status on Reddit. It came out saying, "Hey, you can't just copy and paste and put AI stuff in here. It's got to be you have to post something real." So there's certain
Yeah.
companies out there they're searching for AI to make sure that you're just not copy and pasting it, right?
Absolutely. Now, I have a fairly negative impression of most of the AI checkers, but I also can tell you that there's a lot of people that don't even spend a moment in order to do it. And so the AI, when it generates content, is going to create it's what's called markdown format. Most of us are not familiar with markdown format because it looks a little like programming, not a lot. But if I just copy and paste that response, a lot of times I'm going to bring those markdown characters over with me. That's going to be asterisks and pound signs and other things like that. Well, when you paste a response, and you and I have both seen it in the group plenty of times, Richard, somebody asks a question and they go out and they paste a response. The moment I start seeing that, there's pound signs and asterisks in it, I know they just went to ChatGPT and they copy and pasted it. They didn't do anything. And that doesn't bring value to the community. So, of course, that's not a great way to do things. Now, using ChatGPT or Perplexity and then actually taking a couple minutes to proofread that, to remove those marks, to make sure that it's relevant, that absolutely can add value. But it's a different way of thinking because, again, we're going to go back to where we started. It's not an easy button; it's an easier button, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and like I know not everything can be unlocked, but when I
Right.
see the word unlocked, the first word, I'm like, here we
Yeah.
go.
Well, and that's it.
You know,
There are a series of words that we have learned over time are absolutely words that are very commonly used by AI. And no, delve is another one, game changer. Now, the game changer one, I got to be honest with you, it irritates me because I use that word and I do
I
say
do
that.
too. Yeah, yeah.
But it's become now, we've literally started to change our spoken language as a result, because I admit, I consciously try not to use the phrase game changer anymore because I know it's one of those phrases that's associated with AI. And I don't want to do that. I mean, I want to make it me. But I mean, literally the other day I was doing a video and it came up and I used it and I said, yes, guys, I'm not reading a script. That's just the way I talk. It's what I say sometimes. But yeah, there are definitely words like that that are not as common. And the reason they come up is, again, because of what ChatGPT and the other AI engines have been trained on. They've been trained on all those books in the library. Most of those books in the library were not written by you and I, Richard. They were written by somebody and then they were edited by a professional who actually did good in English class, unlike me. And so they use proper pronunciation and then punctuation and all these grammatical things are used properly. Well, that's not how most of us talk. And so when you do that, it's pretty obvious, again, going back to your comment earlier about the ghostwriter, that didn't come from me because that just doesn't sound like the way that I do things.
Yeah, and then also if I see a quote that if I'm writing something, and I'll actually search out the quote on another channel just to make
Yep.
sure that the quote is right, or if it didn't, delete something or add something to it. So I think you really have to do your due diligence, especially if you want to be considered a professional at what you do, right?
It's one of my favorites quotes actually and this shouldn't be as a surprise, but if you ask and you give a quote to ChatGPT and you ask it to tell you who wrote it, the or who said it, the chances that it's correct are moderate. But part of the reason is if you go to Google or you go to anywhere else, many quotes are attributed to multiple people. And so again, because ChatGPT has been trained on all that, it doesn't necessarily know. Richard, you and I may use a similar phrase repeatedly, and it's not going to then know, well, did Jonathan originate that or did Richard originate that? So it's gonna guess. And sometimes it's wrong. Sometimes it's right, but you definitely want to check those things out because, again, not always there's not even always an agreement as to where some of these, especially some of these great old quotes, where they started. One of my favorites is, I know that 50% of my marketing is a waste of my money. The problem is I don't know what 50%. And that's normally attributed to P.T. Barnum, but there's confusion and dissension amongst whether that really was a P.T. Barnum quote or not. So if I use that quote, ChatGPT may or may not attribute it to P.T. Barnum. It may attribute it to somebody else. And sometimes, yeah, it's hard to figure out where that is. At the same point, ChatGPT also sometimes just makes stuff up. And so we need to double check facts and figures and statistics and quotes, because it may go, in January, Richard said the following, and you may go look back and go, Richard never said that. It literally just made it up out of thin air. So it is important. We need to, I like to refer to trust but verify. I need to trust that it's likely accurate, but I need to verify certain things and make sure that it's there, make sure that things are accurate.
And a lot of times, especially if I'm live or if I'm giving a speech or a talk, I'll tell the audience, listen, I've read over 6,000 books. I got 18 books going right now, plus 2 audio books. I forget who wrote it, so please forgive me, but I didn't write it. But also, if I do have, like, I'll ask ChatGPT, write a quote about this.
Yeah.
And I actually named my ChatGPT, so I will attribute it to the
Oh,
name
I
of my
love that.
chat.
That's great.
This way, I can't say I didn't write it. Arthur wrote it. And
Yeah.
this way, I'm not getting jammed up because I did not write it, but I'm giving the credit to, or I'll give the credit to whoever. If I know who wrote it, I'll give credit. But or sometimes I'll just write author unknown. If I don't know it, I'm not
Yeah.
going to, because I think if you're a business owner, you want to try to stay out of getting into jams.
Right. Absolutely.
Right?
And it can happen so easily nowadays. And sometimes you get into jams and you didn't even do anything wrong. I mean, I have absolutely done that before when somebody's went off on me about something and I'm like, whoa, you're the one that's in the air and wrong here. But they can still decide to, come after you. There's lots of keyboard warriors and trolls. And so, yeah, we need to do our best job, especially if we're out there like you and I are posting content, sharing, trying to add value. You got to do a reasonable job of trying to make sure it's accurate. But even with that proof checking and the fact checking that goes on, AI still saves me probably 80% of the time that I used to spend on it. So in other words, I can almost always do things in about 20% of the time I used to when I leverage AI to do that. So yes, it's not perfect, but it's still an incredible tool that helps me out.
And I think when that thing happened with Jay Shetty, where he got he got in kind of a little bit of a scuffle.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of influencers started realizing, all right, if I didn't write the quote, I'm not going to put it out there. At least I'm not going to attribute it my name to it. So I think that's important. But let me ask you about Google,
Yeah.
because I was at an event with a guy named, you might have heard of, Gary Vaynerchuk, and
Oh
he
yeah.
asked how many people are using ChatGPT to search. 65% of the hands went up.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of people that are not using Google as much.
I,
They're
I
using
agree.
ChatGPT. So what kind of trends are you seeing in as far as Google, ChatGPT, and other things? And then I want to ask, I know there's a $20 ChatGPT, but I heard there's a expensive ChatGPT,
There's
and
a $200 version too. Yeah.
I wanted to know a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
No, not at all. Well, let's dive into the Google thing first. So for years, for most of us, we've known that if we need to learn something online, we go Google it. It's even become a verb. We just go Google it. It stands for looking it up online. And somewhere in between, ChatGPT coming out and Google deciding what it was going to do. And by the way, I'm biased here. So if you're a Google fanboy, you're going to not appreciate me for the next couple minutes. But Google pretty much screwed the pooch and forgot to do what it was supposed to do. And it screwed up AI every time they've tried to do it. Their tools will work wonderfully in one moment, and the next moment it'll act like a cantankerous 3-year-old grandson and go, "Grandpa, I can't do that," even though it just did. It's cantankerous. It's difficult. Candidly, I don't think they've done a good job at all. They've alienated a large part of their customer base as a result of that. And I think what's happened is that you're seeing tools like GPT Search now, which is a part built into ChatGPT, that we're already using ChatGPT. So it's a whole lot easier just to ask it and get our response back than it is to go over to Google, because candidly, we don't like what Google tells us anyway. We combine that with the fact that only recently did Google actually start giving us answers like Perplexity and GPT Search. When GPT Search has been out for a number of months, and even before that, people were using it, and Perplexity has been out there actually giving us answers to our queries instead of just giving us a list of sites. 3 years ago, Richard, we didn't know there was a better plan. Getting a list of 10 sites was great because it saved me from going to millions of sites and trying to find what I needed. But nowadays, as with most technology advancements, we're at a point where we're like, give me a list of 10 sites. I don't have time for that. Just give me the answer. Come on. And Google just started doing it. They're late to the game. I believe that they didn't take AI seriously. I'm not so sure they're still taking it seriously. I don't know if they're going to be able to catch up one way or the other. Statistically, I can't tell you whether or not where people are at, but I know in just seat of the pants, talking to my clients, talking to people in our group, I would agree with what you just shared, that probably close to 2/3 of the people now are using something other than Google to search. And that's a massive shift from where we were just a year or two ago. When you think about Google was the dominant player, they're that big player that got caught flat-footed. So I think search is changing from that perspective, only in that Google's no longer going to be the primary player. What's that mean for us as potential business owners? And that it means that keyword ranking is a lot less important today than it was 3 years ago. I'm not saying it's not important, but it's less important. And the reason is that the AI tools are actually looking at not just a keyword, but they're actually looking at things that are about that topic. And so if you can write and create content about a topic and become what I would call a topical authority, you're going to rank much better in the AI tools. And that's because they're going to see you as an expert in that area, as opposed to Google's more focus on a keyword. And again, these things are all changing and evolving. So if you're a search engine expert, I know I'm only hitting the top level of this, but to answer your question, Richard, I see a lot changing there. And I think it's going to definitely impact a lot of what we see online coming forward. Second question you asked, ChatGPT, is it worth paying for? There's two plans, like you mentioned. There's a $20 plus plan. I would dare say for 99.9% of the people that are on this listening to us, that $20 plan is more than ample. That's the one I use. And Richard, you know, I use AI all day, every day. I mean, for all kinds of things. I don't have the $200 plan. They do have a $200 plan they just recently came out with. And it's primarily to get unlimited usage of their high-end data model called O1. If you're not an academic doing research or somebody like that, you probably at the end of the day don't really need it. And therefore, the $20 plan is likely more than sufficient. I have a number of peers that immediately went out and bought the $200 plan. Of those that I know of and have talked to, all but one have canceled it and went back to the $20 a month plan, because for most of us mere mortals, we don't need that functionality.
Okay, and Jonathan, brother, I just want to say I'm so grateful for you, and I'm having fun. So thank you so much.
Oh, this is great.
So you know, like when I'm doing my podcast and I'm doing post production, like if I go into say Google and I
Yep.
put, you know, help me find 5 short and 5 long tail keywords on the subject of resilience, I gotta go through. It's crazy what I have to go through to get 5 short and we say ChatGPT, search the internet. Please find 5 short tail and 5 long tail keywords on the subject of my interview with Jonathan Mast. It's going to come out with the pretty close to the top 5 short and 5 top long tail keywords that I need for searchability and SEO. So how important is it to use it for using like hashtags or for YouTube tags, and also for short and long tail keywords for search engine optimization?
The difference is when AI goes out, it's not necessarily looking at all the relevant data. So AI is going to give you some estimates based on that, but it's generally not going to have access to the type of data that, at least as a marketer, that I'm typically going to be using for that. So you can figure out a whole lot of things easily, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to get the same quality that you were able to do before. And I think that's one of the areas that, you know, we need to take a look at AI and figure out where in it adds the most value and things like that. As a general rule, when it comes to keywords, ChatGPT and that, they're going to do a great job of figuring out what type of keywords you should be targeting, but they're not going to be able to give you some of that detailed information that you may need ultimately in order to provide the most value to your audience. And again, maybe more and more with the changes we just talked about with Google, that may not be as relevant as it used to be. So it's a hard thing to say, but there's no doubt things are changing, and it's a lot more accessible and easy, because in the old days, I had to spend hundreds of dollars a month to get access to tools that would let me do keyword research. Now I don't. I can literally go to ChatGPT, and it's probably the old 80-20 rule, Richard. It probably gets us 80% of the way there in 20% of the effort. And for most of us in what we're doing, that's sufficient.
All right, so we have a question from up above. I can't see because my eyes are bad. I don't know if you can see that, but
Let me
I can
take a
see
look
it from
here and
here.
see what we've got.
Hold on.
All right. So from my understanding, in recent years, it's been learned that Google is biased with the results and it provides its users. Is that an issue with AI? Everything has a bias, and the reason I say that is Google itself isn't biased. It's an AI algorithm. It's not biased per se. ChatGPT isn't biased per se, but the data that it's been trained on is absolutely biased. Everybody has a bias. I want to encourage you not to think that just because something's biased, it's bad. We all have biases in everything that we do, but it's important to understand that everything does have a bias, and because of AI, Paul, it's a great question, but it's important to know that yes, AI has a bias as well because it's been trained on data that was written by people, and all people have biases. If you're not sure, just watch the news media. Everybody has a bias, whether it's one way or another. Everybody has a bias.
All right, now I have a question because I have a friend of mine, and he just started a business where he makes short videos for other people, and he's making 5 figures a week just by using some of these tools. And so I see that a lot of people. The big question is, Jody just asked the question through text. He asked, "Okay, so I hear a lot of people are losing jobs, like copywriters and stuff like that. I believe that we're also creating jobs. It's kind of like when the bulldozer came over. We weren't having all these guys knocking down stuff. We were using a bulldozer to get more work done. So what do you say when you hear people say, "Oh, ChatGPT is going to ruin the economy. It's going to take people's job"?
I'll just say BS. Normally I say the whole phrase, but BS, it's not. Is it going to change things? Yeah, absolutely. When I live in an Amish community, and so we have lots of horses and buggies running around. That's pretty unusual for most communities. In most communities, I could not find a place to buy a buggy whip in 2025 because they stopped using them when the internal combustion engine came out. Prior to the internal combustion engine coming out, there were factories of people that made buggy whips because that's how we got around. Those people didn't die. Those people didn't go into despair. But did they have to get some new training because of technology? Yes, they did. They had to get different jobs. I'm going to guess a lot of them probably went to work for Henry Ford and started building cars or something like that. So is AI going to change the jobs that we do? Yeah, absolutely. Is everybody on earth going to lose their jobs to AI? No, not a chance. Isn't going to happen. Every technology that's come out, Richard, that I can think of and that I've studied, some of them while I've been alive, fear mongers have been out there talking about how, oh, this is going to ruin the economy. It's going to change everything. And we're never going to have jobs again. I saw this when I was just getting into the workforce. You and I are about the same age. And they started putting PCs or personal computers on desktops. And I saw people going, oh, if that steno pool, they're gone, all those things. And to a certain extent, yeah, those people had to upscale and get new skills. You don't see typewriters on many desks anymore when you go into an office. Why? They've got a computer with a word processor. Things change. We saw the same thing when the internet came out. People started predicting, oh my gosh, it's going to ruin society. We're all going to be destitute. We're going to need a universal basic income. No, we don't. People are going to level up. And like you said, are some jobs going to be displaced? Yes, they are. I'm not going to tell you that none of them are, but it's also going to create 10 times more new jobs and new opportunities than what we had that didn't exist. You and I are talking about things today, Richard, that 2 years ago, we would have never even contemplated as existing because the opportunities didn't exist. You mentioned a friend of yours making short form video using AI to do that. That job didn't exist 2 years ago. I provide coaching and consulting on AI. That didn't exist 2 years ago. I couldn't have done that. There are all kinds of people providing all kinds of value using AI that didn't exist, that those jobs didn't exist. So to the naysayer, oh my gosh, the world is ending. The world is ending. No, it's not. This is another new advancement. You can either choose to stick your head in the sand and get run over by it, and you will, or you can choose to embrace it and figure out how to use it for good. Because the real people that are at risk in this process, Richard, isn't the copywriter. It's the copywriter who refuses to learn to use AI. That person's at risk. The copywriter that embraces AI and says, man, the things I could do with my skill and experience if I used AI to make me more efficient, boom, that's amazing. It's the copywriter who goes, well, I ain't going to do that because that ain't any good. And that's blah, blah, blah. But that copywriter, yeah, they ain't going to have a job in 2 years.
But isn't it amazing with something like my phone, I can create movie-worthy videos
Mm-hmm.
on a cruise ship or in the Bahamas instead of having I got to have a camera crew. I got to have all that. Now with just this, and I got the iPhone 16, I just love the cameras on it. But does it mean that movie studios are going out of business? No, it's just
Not
another
a
way of, it's just another. You're just adding to the economy because now I bought the iPhone. Now I got to buy the earbuds. I got to buy the cords. I got to buy. So it's kind of like you're just adding to the economy. And like I had Simon Majumdar, Iron Chef, he was on the show, and he said 100,000 restaurants went out of business. He said, but 30% of them were bad restaurants that shouldn't have been in business in the first place.
Right. Well, and to your point, I like you, I've got the new iPhone 16. I do a lot of video on it. I produce a lot of video almost every day. In fact, I'm publishing video out there. So people may go, oh, you took away the phone, that technology, you took away a video crew's job. No, I'm not. I'm a small business owner. I'm not going to have an entire video production crew available. So it didn't take anybody's job. On top of that, guess what? I now do have a video editor who works for me 40 hours a week. I'm a small business guy. I have 4 employees. One of them is a full-time video editor. That would have never happened a couple years ago because I couldn't have produced content easily enough to have needed that video editor. So yes, our jobs evolving and changing 100%. It's no different than it's been any time in life. Let's look at roofing. I'm not a roofer, by the way, but years and years ago, when it came to roofing, how did it happen? Well, guys threw those bundles of shingles on their back. They lifted them up. They climbed up ladders. They brought hammers and nails, and when they dropped stuff, they had to go back down the ladder. It was a pain in the butt. How do roofers work today? Well, some type of jacklift comes out and delivers everything to the roof. Not to the area, but literally puts all that stuff on the roof. And now they've got air-driven or power-driven hammers. And instead of pounding nails one at a time, they go tap, 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 and they're laying shingles at probably legitimately 5 to 10 times faster than they used to be able to do that. That doesn't mean that roofers are out of business. It's not a bad thing, but the technology has changed. And you can choose to ignore technology or you can embrace it. It's up to you. But if you ignore it and you get run over by it, it's not my problem. And I don't mean to be rude, but it's just we have a responsibility to adjust, and you need to adjust.
Okay, so this is a teaching podcast. So this question I love, and I got this question from John Lee Dumas, my mentor. As we talked before we got on the show, my perfect avatar is a 45-year-old male, father of 3, veteran, brand new business owner.
Yeah.
So, and this is the beginning of January. So what would be your top 3 pieces of advice for brand new business owners of how to actually implement AI, especially for e-commerce?
Well, the first thing I want to do is encourage you not to try to find a way to make AI your product, because that's what so many people want to do. That you see it in the group, Richard. People are like, how do I use AI to make money? AI is not a money tree. You need to find a problem that you can solve for people. And then once you've identified a problem that you can solve and that people are actually willing to pay you to solve, now you can use AI to deliver that more effectively and efficiently. So if you're in the e-commerce business, how can I use it to write better product descriptions? How can I use it to get better product photos? How can I use it to better target my audience so that I'm getting in front of the people that I want to get in front of? How can I use it to make my marketing better? How can I use it to help me strategize about new products that my audience is going to be interested in by analyzing my existing customer base and helping me identify complementary products? Those are all things that I can do in the e-commerce business, and I can do them a lot faster with AI and I can do them. I don't need to go hire a consultant to necessarily do this. And I don't need to hire a VA to dig through all my data and to give me this back. I can have AI do that for me. By the way, that's one of the reasons I spend $20 a month on multiple platforms, is because it's far less expensive than hiring a VA to go ahead and do that. But now I also can get those responses in a quick and a timely manner. So what I'd encourage everybody on the call to do more than anything, Richard, is identify those things that you're doing on a repeated basis that you go, man, this is the same type of thing. I got to do this every week. I got to run this report and I got to do this or I got to do that. Have AI help you do those things now. AI is very capable of doing a lot of those things. Next time you get an email from a frustrated client who's not happy with something that probably wasn't your fault, but who knows what happened? Maybe maybe UPS stepped on the box and they broke something. Use AI to help write the response so that you can tailor that response to the person who bought it from you and be caring and everything else to make that work for you. So that's the type of thing that you want to do.
Okay, so I believe that if you use old school principles, like building real relationships and not being transactional, and you use new school principles, you can't lose. Like I
Right. I
love
agree with you.
like I love my friend Steve D. Sims, going through some cancer stuff right now, praying for him. But his book Blue Fishing really affected me. It's kind of like, before I knew you were coming on the show, I sent you a handwritten thank you note.
Yeah.
And a
By the way,
sticker.
my mistake for not calling you back. Here it is.
No, but it's just a way of saying thank you. Because
Yeah.
whoever gets a handwritten thank you note anymore? Nobody.
Oh, I came and my wife even said, she brought it to my office and said, you got a note. You got, and like it was a surprise. It used to be you get something in the mail and we're like, yeah, whatever. There's so much in the mail. Well, nowadays, especially a handwritten note, dude, you're the only one that sent me one in the last 60 days. Not that I'm complaining, but you stood out just like that because of it.
So don't you think old school and new school can come together and
Absolutely.
make something great?
110%. 110%. Absolutely.
All right. So what's coming up for Jonathan? What's coming up with the group? What do you got coming up in the next, say, 90 days?
Well, I think, as we go into 2025, we're seeing a lot of people that are saying, okay, this is a good time for me to recommit and refocus on doing and using things in order to, again, save time, better serve my audience, all that type of stuff. We're seeing some great changes happening in AI as far as its capabilities to better understand, and that ultimately, I think, what we're going to see in 2025, one of the most common questions I get, Richard, is it too late? Did I miss AI? No, it's not too late. In fact, we're still early in the process. But I do believe that 2025 is the year that the best business owners and the best entrepreneurs are going to be embracing AI as a way to help deliver more value to their clients. Because at the end of the day, your clients are going to stay your clients longer when you deliver more value to them. Make it easy for them to work with you, make it easy for them to do business with you, make it a pleasure. And that means the next time you give them an opportunity to buy, they're more likely because you made that process simple, and that's effective.
So how do we find you? Talk to us about your Facebook group, because I'm honored just to be a member. So talk about your Facebook group, talk about your pod, talk about everything you got going on, and how we can get into your ecosystem.
Well, I appreciate you asking. The easiest way is just to remember my name, Jonathan Mast. If you go to jonathanmast.com/linktree, you'll see all the ways to connect with me, all the things that are going on. I work hard to keep it updated. I do a fair job of it. It's not great. You also see a link to my Facebook group on there. It's entirely free. I've got nothing to sell you there whatsoever. Join the group. We've got over 330,000 other entrepreneurs that learning about AI, sharing. And it's not just me. I mean, you're part of the group, Richard. There are hundreds and hundreds of people, and they're sharing valuable tips all day long. There's a few dozen that are trying to spam things and they get kicked out. But, we've got literally just hundreds and hundreds of members that are active. In fact, it was interesting. I just saw a stat, not that it matters, but we've got 331,000 members as of this morning, Richard. And I looked for the last 28 days. We had 110,000 users that Facebook said were active and engaged regularly in the group. That just warms me because that means that we've got a super active group. There's lots of stuff going on. If you have questions about AI, it's a great place to ask them, and it's entirely free.
And I love it. And guys, if you're watching this and you join the group, don't spam the group. I did some stupid stuff and I got booted for being stupid. I'm back in and I learned my lesson. So make sure that you're always adding value and not just trying to take value. So I just wanted to say that because people know if I make a mistake, I admit it and I move on. So that's normally my last question. But I got one more question for you.
Yeah.
Because, I believe that, we still have this COVID thing going around. Now they got some kind of bird flu or whatever. But, the average person is busy. I mean,
yeah.
So if I ask somebody to do something in 7 days, they're never going to get to it. But if I ask somebody to take an actionable step in the next 24 hours, they're more than likely to do it. So I wanted to ask this question especially because it's you. I normally don't ask this, but it's because it's you. If somebody is struggling today, what can they do to improve their faith and get closer to Him? Because I believe that if you're not close to God, you're the one that moved. So what can a person do in the next 24 hours to finally get a little bit of peace in their life and get closer to Him?
Great question. Well, I'm not a great theologian or a pastor or anything else, but I think we all, if you desire to have a closer relationship with God, I think it's available. First, I want to encourage it's available to all of us that want it. He's ready. He's waiting. We just need to open ourselves up to it. And it doesn't have to be a formal process. It could literally be you're watching this podcast. You can go ahead and turn the volume down and you can just right now go, I need some peace in my life, Lord, and I need you to help see me how to get it. And then be open to what's going to happen. You're probably not going to hear an audible voice. I've never heard an audible voice from God, but I've seen God move in my life by just asking. I look at God as my father, and as a father and a grandfather, I know that I would do anything for my kids that I thought would bring them value. And if I'm a human and as flawed as I am, then certainly I know my heavenly Father wants to do that as well. So ask what you need. Does it mean you're going to get a pot of gold? No, I don't think that's how God works. But if you need peace in your life, if you're struggling, if you've got turmoil, you've got tumult, there is peace out there. You simply need to ask for it and be open to receiving it in the way that God may bring it to you.
I love it. Jonathan, brother, I love you and I appreciate you. Thank your bride, Beth, for having you be able to hang out with today. Thank you to your amazing boys. I'm so humbled and grateful for your friendship. And thank you for all the times that I've reached out on you on Messenger and you've gotten right back to me. And thank you for not saying, hey, stop being a pain in my rear end.
No, not at all. Hey, Richard, it's been amazing getting to know you over the last number of months. I'm just honored to have the opportunity to chat. I have a feeling we could talk for a lot longer. So thank you for just letting me chat with you and your audience today. It's been amazing.
I love it. And so, guys, make sure you check out Jonathan everywhere. Check out his Facebook group. And, guys, I always end with this. I'm a big Joel Osteen guy. I love Joel. And something that he talks about is every morning when we wake up, we get a choice. We can either be a victim or we can be a victor. And if you guys show up here you show up every day, every time I'm on, you guys show up. That means you are no longer victims of your past, but you're victors of your present and your future. I love you guys. Thank you so much for coming, for hanging out with me all the time. Jonathan, my brother, I love you. Have an amazing week. And guys, remember, vertical momentum. The only way to go is up. I love you guys. Have an amazing